Hey Moonies, welcome to the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast. I'm your host, Victoria L. Johnson, and I'm here with Nicole Glover, author of The Conductors, a tale of magic and murder in post-Civil War Philadelphia. That's out tomorrow, actually, so definitely check that out. Super excited to talk to her. Hey Nicole!
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you. I'm really excited to talk about The Conductors. When you reached out, you told me there's a magic system, but we'll get to that later, because I'm going to start with some Sailor Moon questions. So, what's your first memory of watching Sailor Moon?
I remember watching Sailor Moon by coming across it accidentally. I know it was the afternoon, I turned on the TV, and it must have been one of the flashbacks to the Moon Kingdom, because it was all the princess gowns and all that other stuff. And I got really entranced by it because, it was like really the fantasy, the magic of all that. And I think I've watched it, but I don't think I've kept watching consistently the rest of the days. I didn't realize it was like a daily thing at the time. And I don't know, I think probably came across it another time later on. I know me and my younger sister got really big into it, and we were watching it like daily and whatnot. I think it was definitely by the middle of probably the R season, because I remember it restarted back from the beginning. Then I remember getting caught up to everything. And I think after that, I can't remember exactly when, but I know it was for the first times I had watched it. It was back before the S had come to the US, because I remember being traumatized by that recap episode at the end of season 2, because, being hopeful, being teased about something new, then it just restarted. And I think 2 or 3 times I was I was traumatized by it. Just, I don't know, for whatever odd reason for that, but yeah.
What traumatized you, not to re-traumatize you?
Well, not just more. It's more that I kept thinking, the next day is going to be the new season, and being disappointed. It's not that traumatized, being more disappointed and having that memory of being visibly disappointed, because I remember checking in the afternoon. I know, and at one point I realized it came on in the morning too, and so I would just be checking on that, because that's before the internet, before I really got on the internet, so I didn't know these things. So. Yeah, but I remember being really excited when the 3rd season finally came to the US. I was like, now we're moving forward with the story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's can be really confusing. I think I watched it from the beginning through, but I remember I came across the DVDs and I bought it, and it ended up being S, actually. It ended up being S, and I was watching it, and it was like the uncut version. I was like, this is just different. Like, what is this?
Yeah, that's my feeling too. Cause I have recently been watching it on Hulu. I've been meaning to for ages, because I knew it was been on Hulu forever. But I got scared at the end of last year when they said they're going to take it off. It's like, I need to finally get this off my to-do list. And I've been watching it, because I originally was going to watch it with the sub, but I ended up watching it with the English dub, for whatever odd reason. Because I was lazy, because it was auto playing on Hulu. But anyway, since it's the original version but in English, it's I have a weird, it's familiar, but things are different. And it's I can always tell, especially with the first 2 seasons, that the things that were really different from what my memory was. And I think for some reason, I remember particularly most vividly, because of more recent, I've ever seen recently, when Chibiusa comes down in the first time you see her in the 2nd season. And it's so different in the original, it was in the original uncut version that it was in the English dub, which I actually went looking for on YouTube to see the original dub of that version, because it was just so different. And I started laughing at how they really cut it up than what it was originally.
Yeah, they censored so much.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff that was censored. I just realized some of the dialogue. They say a lot "go to hell" all the time in this new version, that I didn't realize they did that because they cut all that out.
Yeah.
And it was just so many things. And yeah, it's funny. There's solid, because I have a lot of vivid memories of watching the show, but watching the new version, remember, it makes sometimes questions it questions my memories. There's a lot of things I really vividly remember and things I don't. I just finished up the 3rd season the other day, and I remember the first half of S, but the second half, for whatever reason, I just forgot all, other than a few cinematic moments of the second half. Mm-hmm. I just don't remember any of it. So it's
Yeah. I know when I first watched it on Biz, it felt like watching like a completely different show because there's like they do include scenes that weren't included in the like original dub. Like I said, the dialogue sometimes change, so it is a different experience watching it for sure. I completely get that.
That's fun too. It's like it's something new, something different, especially if it's been a long time since I watched it too. So it helps.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it helps you like kind of it's like fresh almost with like even though it's like familiar. Yeah. Do you have since you've been watching it recently? Do you have a favorite episode or a moment?
Oddly, I know it's not a new favorite, but I found myself really appreciating, like liking the future Tokyo a bit more, and for some reason, I guess because it's more of the fantasy element. And I think I also really noticed with it watching it close together, so it's spread out weekly, even previously, it's more of a. I thought it was more like a serial at the latter half of the R was like really serial. Like they had stopped having the monster of the day, so to speak, and more like it's like, you know, things are building up to more a single story, which I didn't realize when I was younger. And I actually liked that little. I found myself really liking that for some reason, which is funny. I never really thought R was like one of my favorites, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other particular moment, but it's just kind of fun seeing, seeing like some of the new things that were missing and stuff. Because I always really fascinated by things that were changed between the Japanese and the original English dub. Because I know when I first really got on the internet, I spent all this time looking up all this stuff. I was fascinated, like when I found out. Because I didn't realize it was a Japanese cartoon when I was a kid. When I first got on the internet, I was like, oh wait, this was originally in Japanese, and such was this, and this was this, and they spliced together episodes, and you know, cut out scenes, and they cut out some episodes, and like, you know, changed names, and like, you know, I think I printed out a bunch of all that stuff because I was just like, you know, just fascinated by it. And I think I don't know. It was always, and I remember tracking down, and yeah, I remember somehow around after that, I remember tracking down like the comic books, the manga. I actually found of all places in the library first.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was like I found one. It was the second book. It was the second volume, and I found it in the library first. And I was like, I pointed out to my sister, "Wait, look, Sailor Moon's a comic book." And which blew our minds. Yeah. And we proceeded to buy. I actually bought a bunch of them as a kid, but I think at some point I stopped because either I ran out of money or lost interest, or I couldn't find them in the stores anymore. Because I ended up having to buy the rest of them. I brought the rest of them in college off of eBay. I spent a lot of time looking for the rest of them.
Nice.
And I actually really liked the manga version a lot. I guess because it's such a different aesthetic than what the anime was.
Yeah.
And it likes a lot of little things I liked better. I like, you know, I guess some of the designs that are more intricate for like some of the costuming was interesting. And I guess I felt like a lot of story and whatnot. But yeah. I knew it was, but it was still one of those things I got to get used to different names, because I remember like being like surprised like they named Hisagi but Bunny and stuff, which was cute. The advice for translations of like I always like those little like kind of like the nods they would make in translation wise, but like some of the things were like, you know, it's interesting how they changed it.
Yeah, I always thought that was such a cute like nickname, Bunny.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It was like a nice little nod, and
yeah, like rabbit. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, I feel like every Sailor Moon fan at some point has like printed stuff out or like has a connection to the library somehow. I don't know how it always happens. Oh, but yeah, no. The internet and Sailor Moon go hand in hand for sure. Did you have a favorite Sailor Scout?
Yeah, I think definitely it was Mercury. For some reason, I think I just like for different reasons. Some of it's like the colors, the blue, and you know, being smart, which, you know, I was like, you know, I always felt like I was smart, you know, like stuff like that, using computers and everything like that. I think a lot of part of it is that I got into astrology because of Sailor Moon. So like, you know, my star sign is Gemini, so Mercury is the ruling planet. So I think I kind of launched onto that aspect of it. whether it was like an odd thing. But I know as I revisit both the show, I think I found myself liking Jupiter a bit more.
Ooh.
Which I've always liked Jupiter. But I think it was, I always like the mix of like, this the badass person, even though who goes around, is the fighter, but she's also like a cooker. She cooks, she gardens, likes plants and flowers and all this other stuff. So it's like always thought it was an interesting character, and like, it's like I guess the most fun one. I always felt like, especially whenever she shows up in both like the show and in the comic, the things get more interesting because it's like she likes to do like the balance between Ami and Ray of like Usagi's friends of like, being outgoing but still like kind of smart on their side. So
yeah, she really is like a perfect blend of like everything awesome. Somehow. Because like badass and I'll make you cookies.
Right, it's basically that's what she does.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's super cool. I love your choices. Great choices. There are no wrong answers, so
yes. There's not. There's not.
There really isn't. And you also have your own book with also a badass character. I gotta make sure I get him. Hetty Rhodes, who is a conductor on the Underground Railroad. So cool. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, it's one of those ideas that there's a mixture of different ideas at the same time. Like the book was originally going to be like a historical fiction, like it's based off of Underground Railroad stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it had an idea I had for a while, and I was like, but it wasn't really going anywhere until I got an idea one day. Let's add magic to the story because I know I like fantasy, and it just kind of clicked. So I think the story just kept coming together. I think I had a better visual of the characters, and the mystery element, the murder aspect of it, just kind of fell into place. And I had a story, and I had to do some research, and but yeah, like the characters were kind of the main characters, Hattie and Benji, were kind of mostly fully formed when I first started writing the story. Just like they got tweaked as I did revisions and stuff like that, and just fleshing out the worlds. But yeah, it's like one of those ideas that just kind of came together like randomly, and this was really worked.
Yeah. How do you describe what it's about to someone who hasn't heard of it?
Yeah, it's basically it follows a pair of former Underground Railroad conductors who, once they settled in Philadelphia after the Civil War, decided to spend their time using the skills they've learned to solve murder mysteries and other magical oddities that occur in and around the community. And this book kind of follows the main murder of a close friend of theirs, whose death causes an array of like interesting issues within their lives. That the book kind of follows the aftermath of it as they kind of question themselves, question their friends, and question other people in the community about like what happens, and seeing all these different effects from this death causes.
Nice. That sounds so interesting. I can't wait. And then I remember you told me before that there's a magic system based on like astronomy that's inspired by Sailor Moon, like through like, not like exactly inspired, but like your love for astronomy is inspired by Sailor Moon, which inspired this magic system. How does it work? Tell me about it.
Right, the magic system is based off the constellations. So my view of this is that they can draw the constellations, whether it's like drawing in the air with their fingers, drawing a piece of paper, or sewing it, or using like hammering in with like a nail or something like that. Anything basically, using paint, and basically it's based on the constellations. And once they draw on that, it's like they can decide what they want to do, whether they want to make a wind spell, or like cast a light, or do some intricate magic. But it's all based off of constellations. And my idea is I can use any kind of constellations. Hetty, for example, uses like kind of different constellations, whatever her moods, whatever it needs to be simple or complex. Because the big drawback of the magic system is that it takes a while. You have to draw it out, and some like glow of light will occur. So it's not like you can do it really quietly, unless if a lot of time. So yeah, but it's a lot of fun with me picking out the constellations to use. So sometimes there's like the little like astronomy jokes with the constellations I picked, and I always, whatever constellation I picked is for a reason. It's not just me like picking one out the hat. So it's kind of fun. It's fun for me also to visualize these constellations coming to life in the world.
That sounds fun. Do you have a favorite constellation?
I've gone. I don't know. I liked a bunch of them. I guess for some reason I like a lot of the ones that are animals, like a lot of the birds, particularly for some reason. Just I guess imagining them as like actual bird shapes. So it's kind of fun. Like there's the crow, the swan, the phoenix, and just a crane is a crane. Like for some reason, I found myself really fond of those. And I also like. I mean, there's always the classics of like the like Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and of course all the different astrology associated ones. Mm-hmm. And cause I know at one point when I was younger, I got really interested in looking at some of the myths because I think everyone has always had the passing interest in like Greek mythology, mm-hmm. and so I remember looking up a lot of the myths behind these constellations. And some of them were interesting stories. Some of them were like it was kind of surprising how they picked them out from different mythologies and put it in there. But yeah.
Do you remember any of these stories? I'm curious now. Like, no, I never thought to look up the history. I think I might have looked up like maybe one or two, but I'm trying to remember which ones I've looked up before. I don't think I've ever looked up like the Big Dipper, but I'm pretty sure I looked up like Orion's Belt, I think, because I was just like, what is that? Like, what's going on there?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like which ones they picked, and I don't remember all of them. I just remember like some of them as being really odd, like how for the reasons why they ended up in the constant sky anyway. But yeah, I guess with anything you pick up the story, and I guess I was also fascinated how did people like figure out these shapes, because a lot of times we just look at the constellations and like just as there's just drawn out as like the vertices and lines. You don't really see these things. You don't see like a swan or a bear or like a scorpion or something like that. You just see stars collected. But it's just that's the thing. But that's always fascinating people, how they use their imaginations to see these certain things.
Yeah, it's definitely cool because it helps if you can like pick it out and be like, that's that. So now I know where I am. Like that is so impressive to me because I cannot look at the sky. Well, I mean, you can't even see the stars anymore in most cities, but I cannot look at the sky and be like, that's what that is, except for like maybe the North Star.
So it's probably why it's always a big favorite. So yeah, but like navigation by the stars, like you mentioned, that always fascinated me too. Like the idea that like sailors and whatnot, or even as travelers just traveling across land, once they're using their knowledge of such a thing like that. Yeah, and like the Underground Railroad people who conductors, like in your book. That's super cool. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I like. Ooh, if you could pick any constellation to be a Sailor Scout, what would you pick? I mean, there's the obvious answers, like the different astrology based ones, like Virgo, for example, is like it's obviously like the person, like Aquarius, all these different things. I can easily see. I think there actually was a comic that used the astrology signs. I remember because it was a very Sailor Moon inspired one. Ooh. I remember seeing it was a zodiac force.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's a comic book, and it's who is that by? Yeah, I've actually been wanting to get them on the podcast eventually too. The Zodiac Star Force. Yes, that's
it. Yeah, I can remember that's always a popular one. I guess anything that has like a group like that. So there was another. Because I remember there was another like a children's book series. And I'm really blanking on the name for this one, but it was like it was basically a bunch of some celestial based school, and there's a bunch of girls with their names that were like versions of the astrology signs. Like they had like easy names like Leona for Leo, and there's like things like Piper for Pisces. And it was a book series. It might have been a cartoon, but I came across it randomly in the one of the library thing. It just popped up on on Hoopla on the thing like that, the library system like that.
I love Hoopla.
And I just remember seeing that, and it's like realizing they didn't really come out and say it's based off astrology, but you look at the names, look at the personality of the characters, it's like that's definitely based off astrology. And there's lots of things like that, which you start to notice after a while when you're really into certain things.
Yeah, I think that might have went over my head for a while. You know how long it took? It took me, I won't say how long, but it took me too long to realize that all the Sailor Scouts are named after planets. I don't know why
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together until like probably like a good year. But I was like, hold on a minute,
Mm.
I know what's going on here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did think that was really cool that their planets, their astrology sign is related to their planet. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I guess those little factors I thought was really cool. Like, you know, like Mars which is an Aries, and like, and all this other stuff. It's like, you know, Saturn's a Capricorn. That was kind of, it's like a nice extra detail I really liked in there.
Yeah, their personalities match too to what, you know, they say each astrology sign is. Like, I know Sailor Moon's a Cancer, and they say they're very like emotional, and she like cries a lot. I was just like, oh, this makes sense. This is cool. Yeah, I love that too. Like you said, like those little details that really add to the character. Do you have any other anime that you like?
I know I watched a bunch of the mainstream ones. I remember really liking Full Metal Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
Both the first one and the Brotherhood version.
Nice. Okay.
I remember watching a bunch of the stuff that was on the TV a lot, like Digimon, and a bunch of like some other ones like I remember watching Tenchi Muyo.
Oh yeah.
Some cards. It was like, and I was being confused by those different versions, like different seasons or like different series at the time when I was a kid. Yeah. I know, and you know, it was, and I remember got into in college. I was watching some random ones, like anyone I can find. It's like I remember watching Nana.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, I remember, and even going on to watching like the original like movies they made with live action eventually, because I really liked the premise of it. But it's like one of those things I found like randomly, like, you know, just looking for something interesting to look at. And I know I haven't really watched too much recently, but yeah, a lot of usually a lot of the mainstream. I really didn't always do enjoy it whenever I do watch it. So there's something like fun with anime that's different than like regular cartoons. Since more, I guess a lot of times they have more magic in them. And whatnot.
Yeah, that is true. That's one thing I've kind of been enjoying with American cartoons recently. They've been kind of adding a little more magic to their stuff, but I think you're right about that. There is definitely something magical, I guess, about anime. Do you have anything else that you stan, like in general, just like could be anything?
I mean, I know I'm currently into the Hades video game right now.
Ooh, I still need to play that.
Yeah, I know, it's surprising. I played other video games by this company, by Super Giant. Mm-hmm. Like they played previously. I liked them, but it was like never like, oh, I enjoyed my time playing them, but you know, I finish it, I'll leave it to rest. But this Hades game, I put in so many ridiculous amount of hours in this game, and I'm still like finding stuff. It's like, for me, because my day job is a UX researcher, and I like kind of those designs and like how to make things usable, like for apps and websites. And for me, I'm looking at this as a really well-designed game from every level, from like craft level of storytelling, of engaging characters, of even like the level design of the game, because it's a roguelike. Basically, you end up playing a series of you play in a loop, in the sense that you play through the game over and over again, but you find like the story happens between like runs of like gameplay. And what I really enjoy about it, the game rewards you for being bad at the game. Like, you can die, you can lose, and you still keep your experience. You build off of that experience. So being bad at this game is actually kind of good, which it's fascinating to me.
That is fascinating to me too. I've been thinking about playing this game for a while because I have a Switch, and I need to find a new game. I just finished one.
Yeah.
And I can be bad at games because like I just get so frustrated and I get lost easily, and like, you know, there's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And so that is very interesting to me because I'm like, I like to be rewarded, and I can be bad at games. So
yeah, they do that too. They even have like at one point you get like a defense buff that gives you I guess basically it's not like an easy mode, but it makes things easier for you if you want to enjoy more of the story.
Ooh,
that helps out. Yeah, it's the little things that you kind of help you out with, and yeah, it's just fun. It's like it's well, like whatever you pay for, it's like well worth it, because like you end up playing it all the time. Like there's a bunch of the games I still have on my list to play. Like I want to play the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, but I haven't bought that yet because I'm still playing Hades over and over again. And I know if I get it now, it's gonna just collect dust. So it's like I'm trying to get. Yeah, it's just that it's that well crafted. It's like it's very it's just really well done. It's like I haven't really seen a game that's well done in such a long time. And it's over everything you heard about. Like it's like all the hype is real for this game.
Okay, well that might have made my decision, because I was thinking about Miles Morales too, but I realize I play more games with my Switch, because I think just because I can be anywhere with it and kind of just like, rather than having to be like in the living room to play. So I've been kind of debating between either Hades, Miles Morales, or Sword and Shield, the Pokemon game.
Yeah.
So I think I might lean towards Hades, because I really like that, because I just finished this game called Paradise Killer, and I did enjoy it a lot, but I like you talking about that, is it like the usability of it, the game, like it wasn't always intuitive, and like I don't like thinking too much when I play a game. I'm like, tell me where to go, tell me how to get there. Like I don't want to have to figure out too much. Like the map wasn't great, but it was a fun game. It was a really fun game, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah, it's always a big thing with certain games. Like I think I tried playing The Witcher 3, mostly when the show had dropped. I was like, I was gonna play the video game, see what it's about, and I ended up quitting it because I kept dying because I couldn't draw the sword out in time. Like I kept hitting the wrong thing, and I'm getting these fights. And for some reason, there was some section, like I guess because I played all these like games where you bust into these like villagers' homes and you break their pots to get like healing stuff and coins. And I did that in The Witcher 3, and somebody came and beat me up. Because,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna break these chests to get this thing because I'm used to this, and I'm not supposed to do that. I wasn't supposed to do that in this particular house. So I got beat up really bad. I was like, no, I guess I'm not going to play this game.
That's hilarious. I always find that so funny in Pokemon, because you can go in like to people's houses and like search their bookshelves, and you'd be like, you found a potion. And I'm like, no, you just stole a potion.
Yeah, right.
You did not find this. But yeah, that's funny though. I've never seen a game where the people actually retaliate, but I guess it was just that one house, like you said.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if it was more than that, because I think I quit long after that. But I just was like just surprised, because I'm just used to like being a nosy neighbor and going on getting in all these games. Yeah,
that sounds fun though. I think you convinced me to get Hades next, because I do need a new game. It's been like 2 weeks, and I'm like, I want to play a new game.
Yeah, I always get this feeling after when I finish something, it's time to move on to something different and have fun, even it takes me a while to play certain games. But just having something new to work towards, there's like some satisfaction in that.
Exactly. Yeah. I was procrastinating a lot last year, because I was halfway through Max Payne, and or almost done with Max Payne, and almost done with Pokemon X. And I just stopped playing for a while, and I finally finished both. And I told myself I wasn't going to buy a new game until I finished those. Yeah. So I finally finished them, like, in December. And I was like, okay, now I can get a new game. And then I got Paradise Killer, and I'm like, all right, I beat that. Now I can get a new game. So I'm like, stay on a roll. Do this. Yeah. But, I definitely have no shame now. I like, know what I like. And I'm like, yep, I want something easy and fun, and just, like, reward me for being bad.
Yeah, and this game too is also it's also good, like if you don't have a lot of time to play, like like half a day to play a game, because you can break it up by different runs of these games. I think at most a whole thing is like maybe 30 minutes or so, and there's like different worlds, you can kind of break it up easily. So which is also good too. Like there's a lot of times I'll like pause, like so to speak, pause in the middle of a run, like because it lets you save between rooms and stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's always important to me, because I found I started playing some older games.
Oh yeah.
I was able to get some of the older like Final Fantasy games, for example, and I wasn't prepared for like how far apart the save points were.
Yep.
I got spoiled with more modern games being like, oh, you go 5 steps, there's another save point, or you can save it through the menu. And
Yeah.
I was prepared with the older games being like, you gotta walk for like an hour to get to the save point.
Yeah, it is definitely. I got very spoiled also because there's like autosave even now, and I'm just like, I can't just turn this off whenever I want to stop playing. I can't just like find a save point like in 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, I think I gave up on Sonic because of that. I had it for the blanking right now, Sega Saturn. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
They're like one of the original. I'm like,
sounds like
I think so. And yeah, it just like you couldn't save, and like if you died, like you lost everything. I was just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I was like, bring back Mario World. At least I could save every game, every whatchamacallit.
Yeah, we're just spoiled. Yeah, we're just spoiled all this modern stuff. Just saving whatever you want.
Yeah, no. Even like the game I just played, Paradise Killer, it had save points, and it kept telling you like, this game does not autosave. You need to use the save points. And I was like, what? But luckily they were like usually easy to find. I think there was only one time. I was so tired. I was so ready to go to sleep, and I just need a save point. Where is it? I couldn't find one for like 10 minutes, and then I finally saved it and went to sleep.
Yeah, I know there's games like that. I got moments like that when I'm like, I'm ready. It's like, it's pushed on a little bit further and not thinking it's going to be close to fine. And it's never like that.
Nope.
Again, you start weighing that you want to just like redo everything, especially when you like accumulate a bunch of like experience points or like the random stuff. Like, is it worth it to shut it down? Because I don't want to stay up forever looking for something like this.
That too. It's a struggle. But I want to ask you, since now you have finished your own book, what advice would you have for someone who either wants to write a book or create like their own magic system?
Okay, let's take the easier question. I'll start with the easier question first, which is creating your own magic system. This one, it's for example, there's different ways to create a magic system. Some people like having like a hard system where there's like very defined rules, kind of like more of a scientific approach to it. And there's also like the other end of it's like a soft magic system, which basically is like some people boil it down to being like wave your hand and magic happens. Sometimes it's just finding like what's the happy medium, what works for you, what interests you, how you like to see magic. Do you like to see big, flashy, dramatic magic? Do you like the quiet stuff? Do you like seeing it more grounded in realism, like just using like making potions and herbs, like something that's more real? Or do you like the esoteric, made up words or like symbols and whatnot, or even like grounding it with gemstones or like I don't know, like anything, or books and wands and all this other stuff. Just figuring out what you like, how you like to see magic, and kind of from there decide like what do you want the magic to do. Do you want the magic to kind of affect just the physical world? Do you want to just be like elemental magic, for example, that you only really affect like what's physically here? Or do you like the idea of like illusions or mental stuff, and kind of just figuring out what's the limitations you want to, how far you want to push the magic, and how much do you want to keep it, want to keep it from being like a world breaking kind of level? Because as anything, you can go overboard with certain things that kind of break how you want your world to work, and also kind of to see how it works with the scope of your story. Like if you have like this big epic fantasy, it's probably not a good thing to have like your magic be all this little tiny little stuff, unless it's like that's the point, like tiny magic kind of saves the world. And but on the other hand, if you're having like this like kind of cozy kitchen like farmhouse story, and you have this like big dramatic magic, it might be too much for the story, unless again, of course, that's the point of having this like big times world powerful sorcerer like hiding away in this cabin in the woods somewhere. But there's also and other things, like kind of keeping a list of like what rules your magic has, like, and deciding if you want to have like a punishment or like or some kind of magic cost, like whether it's like a physical draining to like the collection of ingredients and whatnot, and just kind of figure out how it works in your world and how it fits with their themes you want to build the world to be. So that's kind of my rough list of like ideas for how to make your magic system.
You know, I never thought of the different ways you can show magic until you just said it. I was like, you do have like your big flashy and your like small, like quiet, like twiddle my fingers, and then you have like the potions and the, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
And the more difficult question of writing a novel.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I mean, there's lots of resources out there you could probably tell you, but I think, I guess the gist of things is something you like to write, something you want to, you can find yourself wanting to write for hours and hours on end. And, you know, write mostly for yourself, write things that interest you, things you want to say, write things you want to say as things you really want to share with other people, in a sense. And, I don't know, just, I won't give like the pliffy comments of, you know, writing every day or like you're writing X amount of words per day, because everyone's lives are different, and it's hard. Like if it makes saying you have to write every day, writing X amount of words every day feels like you have to force yourself to something that might not fit your life. But basically, if you want to write a book, write stories, write short stories, and everything in between, and just make some time for writing in your life. And I don't know, just always seek out new ways to improve yourself, whether it's just reading, whether it's talking to people, taking lectures and whatnot. And I don't know, and then just at the end of the day, you still have to get down and write the words, and also know that the hardest part is every part of it for different people. Sometimes it's the making the first draft, just getting the ideas out. Sometimes it's the revision part, and sometimes it's getting feedback. And I mean, if it doesn't, and sometimes it gets easier. Some parts gets easier. Sometimes it's easy to adapt to it. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just find it's just, and also just try to. I guess also the other advice with writing a book is still try to remember why you started writing in the first place. Because I know there's some parts when I get into the story, usually like in the latter third, I'm like, why am I writing this? Like, why did I spend all this time writing this? And I don't know, sometimes it's helpful to kind of remember and take a step back and thinking like why I started writing in the first place, and why I keep coming back to certain stories and certain characters and everything.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. And then just like Sarah Moon says phrase at the end of every episode. What would your phrase be? So Sailor Nicole says.
Sailor Nicole says to never be afraid to like raise your voice and speak out. I think that's one of the things I've learned, particularly in this past year, is to take the time to speak out. The things that bothers me, things I always try to keep to my chest, and I take and make an effort to speak out loud and tell people this such is bothering me, or I think this should be this way, and just don't keep things quiet to myself anymore. Yeah. So my advice is, you know, raise your voice, speak out.
Yeah, that is super important. I think everyone could. I can learn. I could do that more. So I completely agree.
Yeah. It's one of those things I'm still working on. I guess for me, in some ways, I like to avoid conflict as much as possible, but sometimes it's not that good. It's not good to do that.
Yeah, it can be the same way, and you know, sometimes it's worth. I mean, sometimes it's worth it, or sometimes it's right or better to, you know, tell people how you feel.
Yeah.
And then what is next for you? We have a book coming out tomorrow, but what's next for you? Where can people find you?
Well, let's see. What's next for me is actually the second book. I have one currently scheduled for November of this year coming out. I had fairly recently just turned the book in, so I'm getting ready to all the fun stuff, getting prepped up for that. So it's exciting to these two books in 1 year. So
congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting and fun work to do at the same time. And one benefit of doing it so close together is that all the things are still fresh in my mind. So I could a lot of things that was cut from the first book made it into the second book. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, so this is a like sequel, or is
direct sequel. It's a direct sequel. So like basically another adventure with them, another mystery.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love mysteries. Like,
Yes.
if I had to make, like, magic mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
Black people. It has everything I like. So I really am excited to read it. Yeah. And then, where can people find you?
You can visit me at my website, nicole-glover.com. I'm also on Twitter. It's basically my last name, Nicole Glover, but instead of the V, it's a W for my Twitter handle because I'm weird and it's easier to slip and make little spelling mistakes like that.
Well,
Oh, not really,
like
because there's
glowing. Yeah.
yes, it's glowing, or it could be either glowing or glower as in glaring at people. So it works either way.
It does work either way. Love it. Cool. So if anyone wants to find you, they can go there. And then I am Victoria L. Johnson, of course. Thank you guys for listening to the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast. You can find me at Miss Old School on Instagram and Twitter. That's Old School with a K. Or you can find the podcast at Moonies Club on Twitter and Moonies_club on Instagram. And we have merch at mooniesclub.com if you're interested in any Sailor Moon inspired merchandise. And thanks, Nicole, for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's great. It was great fun.
Yeah, it was fun talking about Sailor Moon and like amazing things.